All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete as part of the PFL 2023 regular season, the second event as part of that, which transpires on April the 7th, and a very intriguing featherweight fight that I'm curious to get some insights on as Olena Kolesnyk and Aspen Ladd clash, and happy to have Aspen on the show. How's everything going there, Aspen?
Went really well. Doing training right now, and life's good.
Yeah, and it seems like this is like progressed in a pretty natural way, like getting the first fight under your belt with the promotion where you weren't necessarily part of that regular season cycle. Has that lent to, I guess, a compounded kind of comfortability entering your first PFL regular season, even though it's not your first PFL bout?
So the season format's definitely a new thing for me, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm extremely grateful that I've already fought for them once last year, just because I kind of have like an idea of how things are and how things work with obviously the PFL. And I was there for their biggest card of the year. I was on it, so I got to see the end result of everything that we're beginning in April.
Yeah, and it seems like just really, I really just love like what PFL is doing with the featherweight division, because there are certain options out there, but I mean, definitely need more platforms to kind of get on that and add to any kind of growth potentially. And it seems like they're very much prioritizing the 145-pound ranks this year. Can you talk about how important that is for your career? Because it seems huge.
It's hugely important. So obviously there's a couple other promotions that do it. Bellator stuff at 145, and UFC has it, but they're not really putting any attention towards it. I think the fact that the PFL is really prioritizing and creating a solid division, you're going to have a lot more girls coming there. There's a lot of big 35ers that are just on the cusp. So it provides another option, and honestly, one, like, my personal experience with the PFL so far has been incredible. They treat all their fighters great, from like the lowest level coming in to their champions. Everybody's given respect. Everybody's treated well within the promotion. So it's just a really, really good thing that they're doing in general, and before they have a fighter is great.
Yeah, for sure, because, I mean, I was seeing an article about the UFC release where you were saying it was kind of a matter of them almost saying, like, 135 or nothing, and, I mean, there should be those options, because, I mean, the, trouble making 135 was well documented, and, I mean, in a lot of these situations, it's certainly not for lack of trying, it's just, like, certain people's biochemistry is not going to allow them to comfortably make 135, so I love to see it on that end. Like, it seems like more mindful of, like, the health of the fighters, and like you said, seems like a lot of people who could potentially, cross into that featherweight division too.
Yeah, no, definitely. And situations like mine where it's like you don't have just one option, or also like mine, for years and years you're not trying to do something that's, you really shouldn't be trying to do it. So having the ability to fight on multiple weight classes, basically, not just like, hey, there's these options and you better try to make it, that is fantastic.
Yeah, and I would think that would even be more compounded if you were to pursue certain lightweight super fights, which seems to be of your interest too. So really speaks to like what you're saying about opportunities and multiple divisions. Like, do you feel like you almost entered the PFL fold at the perfect time? Because like I said, they're prioritizing the women's featherweights, but also the advent of their super fight division, which would seemingly possibly provide someone like yourself good name value kind of lightweight fights too, possibly.
Absolutely. It was really just, it seemed like everything lined up perfectly. Because right when I was coming to the PFL, like, obviously there's 155 fish, and it's like, all right, it's 155, I'll walk in and fight at that. But right at the time that everything went down, they were trying to start at 145, or at least they had the idea to start at 145 division. So everything played out perfectly as far as that went. And yeah, the potential for super fights, obviously I don't know what weight they'd be at, because the super fights, the big ones, you got Larissa and you have Kayla, and that could be at any weight, 45 to 50, 55, and it's very exciting. Like, there's just so many more opportunities to fight, and fight frequently and fight at a healthy weight.
Yeah, for sure, and I mean that worked out very well, and a lot of other fights I definitely want to get insights on, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't get some of your, I guess, takeaways from the last one, because that would seem like a good win to have on the resume. I mean, returning back to the win column, but also besting a former Bellator featherweight champion. So can you speak to, I guess, the main takeaways from that Julia Budd win?
Yeah, no, I tend to focus more on the negative than the positive as far as my performances go, and I always have been that way. There's a lot I did wrong. There's a few things I did right, but Julia was pretty much, in my opinion, she's one of the toughest 45 division people out there, and if you look at historically, she is. She's a Bellator champ for a long time, and I knew exactly who it was when they brought her up as my potential first fight with them. And obviously, I wanted a tough fight coming in. You don't want something easy. But she was an excellent opponent to come in and really test myself against. And she was a tough fight. But yeah, no, I'm grateful that she was the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the kind of win that, like, immediately, like, asserted yourself in the division. Like, I mean, you'd had some featherweight fights before, like the Norma Dumont fight comes to mind, but I feel like in terms of, like, wanting to make that run at 145 going forward, that was a... Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, no, I'm still here. Did you catch that last bit of what I said?
I'm sorry, you broke up just for that last little bit.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I was just saying it would seem like the kind of win that would really, like, assert your place in the division. Not that you haven't had featherweights before, like you fought Norma Dumont, but just in terms of, like, making that run going forward, like, it would seem like a win that, like, really asserts where you're at in the 145 hierarchy, I guess.
It was the first 45 fight. Like, I fought Norma, but Norma was on 10 days notice when I was still a 35er, or trying to be a 35er. Like, that was the first fight where it's like, okay, I am a 45er and I can compare like that. But yeah, having somebody that's that well established in the 45 division, that was fantastic.
Yeah, I love to hear that characterization and great insights for sure, but you were talking a bit earlier about the regular, I guess, rate of activity PFL provides, and it seems like you've made some amendments in the training in that kind of regard, like in terms of, like, you know, handling the live rounds a little bit differently. Like, what are some other aspects of your camp that perhaps you've altered in the face of, like, how regularly you could be competing in PFL?
As of yet, we haven't altered all that much because we're going into the first fight like you would be going into a first fight. But yeah, we've definitely discussed that, my coach and I and my teammates and I, is like, how are we going to handle that, really not get too beat up or too injured in between? That's a lot of fights back to back. And it's just going to have to be a lot more careful with live rounds. And honestly, we're going to have to see as we go. Really not overdo it, but it's hard. Like, I personally, like, I love to train. And if I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm missing out. But finding that balance is going to be a key to staying healthy for the season, for sure.
Yeah, and in talking about, like, some of the people you've gotten in work with, like, I was seeing a recent post with Chelsea and Carlin Chandler and everything like that out in Stockton. Is that, like, some of the main people you're working with? Like, is that one of the primary spaces leading into this one?
Yeah, no, Autumn and I work quite a bit too. Autumn Norton, she's another great fighter, but for this particular fight, I'm fighting a hard-hitting southpaw fighter. And Chelsea and I, because we train at the same strength and conditioning coach, Game Fit in Sacramento, so we're around each other a lot. She's basically the ideal partner for who I'm fighting coming up, so it's been fantastic being able to work with her. And her younger sister is like another clone of Chelsea. Like, they're both southpaw, hard-hitting strikers.
Yeah, and I was seeing an interview you did with Cage Side Press with Jay Anderson where you characterized your opponent in, you know, that sort of regard, like talking about them as a heavy-handed southpaw striker. Like, what are, I guess, some other thoughts you may have on, I guess, just like the overall resume, I suppose? It seems like they're pretty tenured under the PFL umbrella, more as a lightweight, like has fought Larissa Pacheco a couple times, who's obviously the current champion and has some Invicta experience. Like, what are your thoughts on maybe some other attributes she has, or maybe even just general resume, and also, I guess, transitioning to 145 for her?
Yeah, no, I hope for all the success with the transition, obviously, but she's definitely been with the PFL for a while, so she has quite a bit of experience. She's done the tournament format, so she has that under her belt. And yeah, there's certain things she does well and other things where she doesn't seem as comfortable with. But as far as opponents go, I think she presents some interesting things, but she's a good one.
And something that I thought was interesting, I admittedly didn't really know this as much before doing my research for this chat, but it seems like there's some other family members who are actively fighting, like your brother seems to really be taking well to that. I saw you had a post there, I guess like a few months ago at this point. Like, how does it feel for it to be kind of like a family involved thing? Like, obviously, MMA being an individual sport in the competitive framework, but yeah, can you speak to that, I guess?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, he's actually fighting this weekend in Tahoe. He's currently 7-0 with AMI fights and 1-0 with kickboxing. And he's fighting again in MMA this weekend. And yeah, Shayler Ladd, he's doing fantastic. And really the only issue we have with him is getting opponents and keeping them through the fight. But he has all the potential in the world, and he can do whatever he wants to with it.
I was going to say, could we see a couple lads in the PFL framework down the line, maybe?
You never know. He's definitely had opportunities already, but it's like, because he is still an AMI, and he's still super young, even though he's 6'3" and walks around like 240. But it's really when you have a kid that's doing that well, it's not going too fast, you know? Like, there's people in the UFC, oh, stop it. There's people in the UFC right now where it's, honestly, I think they're a little bit too young, and they're not ready to go yet. But yeah, so it's timing more than anything. Relax.
I've got a little dog next to me too. I was gonna say this is an audio interview, but yeah, definitely a couple cute dogs in close proximity. But what I was going to say is it must be kind of curious for you, just with it being like relatively recently, like 10 years in MMA from the AMI debut and your brother navigating his amateur run. Like, that must be cool, like providing insights for him along his own journey as you're endeavoring on your own.
Definitely, because I've already experienced it all. I've done everything at this point. And so I kind of know what it takes to be successful versus moving too fast and what you really shouldn't do. So it's definitely a good thing for him, and just, yeah, no. It's hard to describe, because, like, when he fights, I feel like I want to throw up the entire time, even though that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, he is going to go all the way. It's just timing it out where it's not too soon, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, referenced the lovely dog a bit before. It seems like that's something you very much enjoy getting up to, like getting out there and hiking and walking the dogs. Like, I've even seen some interviews where people have said you only do two things, like training and hiking. Can you speak to, I guess, the importance of that just for general peace of mind and stuff like that? Because, you know, it seems like a great activity.
Very much so. So, basically my grandpa started taking me hiking when I was like 5, and I never really stopped. But yeah, no, if I'm not training in the gym or driving to a gym or driving to sparring or commuting somewhere, I am out hiking. And it's really peace of mind. I mean, sure, it's good for you physically, but for me, it's more mental.
Yeah, I personally like to unwind similarly. Just, there's something about being outside and just getting that fresh air that really just gives that perspective and can, you know, calm certain things down. So cool to hear that that's been, you know, a good source for you for seemingly quite a while, like you're saying. It seems like you've been doing it since you were a young kid.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's just, yeah, it's my peace of mind for sure.
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear that. And you've been really good with your time, Aspen. It's been great getting to talk to you ahead of such an intriguing fight, one I'm very much excited for, but I want to be mindful of your time and schedule all the same. So to that point, is there maybe any final parting thought you might want to add as we're kind of wrapping up here?
Just thank you for having me. And yeah, you're easy to talk to. So I'm always grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly try to be. I mean, it definitely went smoothly. I'm kind of surprised my dog didn't end up barking when your dog was getting excited, so maybe I'll give him a little treat. But again, appreciate the time and everything, and looking forward to checking out the fight April 7th.
Cool. Have a good one.